One of the technical themes that defined the 2024 Formula One season was the use of flexible wings, both because it pushed teams to further explore aeroelasticity and because it sparked debates over interpretations and delays. The issue of balance has always been fundamental. In the past, such as in 2021, there were discussions about how greater flexibility in wings, like the rear ones, could provide advantages in terms of top speed and achieving a more versatile setup. However, with these ground effect cars, the topic has returned to prominence, especially concerning the front wings, to compensate for certain characteristics. For this reason, several teams decided to invest in raising the bar further, while others initially opted for a more cautious approach, either due to doubts about the legality of certain technical solutions or to avoid spending their budget on developments that the Federation might ban within weeks. This pursuit of greater elasticity in components was also encouraged by the fact that the testing protocols introduced in 2022, when the current ground effect regulations came into force, have remained unchanged. A stable regulatory framework allows teams to accumulate experience and establish a solid development base while experimenting to push boundaries further. Given how load is managed in this type of car, how the tires limit combined phases in corner entry and mid-corner, and how the wings are far less complex than before, balance has become more critical than ever. In a technical battle often decided by mere hundredths of a second, this affects not only outright performance but also the driver's confidence. It is no surprise then that teams have resumed exploring aeroelasticity more actively, particularly at the front, due to both regulatory freedom and the characteristics of these cars, which naturally tend toward understeer in slower sections and behave differently at high speeds. Working on the front wings is proving both challenging and crucial for ensuring more effective and consistent vehicle balance. McLaren team principal Andrea Stella explained that particularly with the current generation of cars and front wing regulations, the possible geometries were highly restricted. He noted that achieving the desired performance in slow sections on straights and at high speed was very challenging. Stella added that this was a difficulty all teams were likely confronting, which contributed to the complexity of front-wing development. Given the intrinsic characteristics of these cars, a well-optimized front wing in terms of flexibility can significantly influence the car's behavior, beyond just performance. Ground effect cars have often proven unpredictable in their reactions, making consistent behavior more beneficial than it might seem. McLaren and Mercedes were among the first to invest in this area during 2024, and while it wasn't the only secret of the MCL38, it was one of the elements that enabled the team to build a car that became the benchmark on the grid for much of the season, ultimately winning the Constructors' Championship. It's no secret that the Woking team invested heavily in redesigning the entire family of wings, introducing as many as 8 different solutions to adapt to various load levels, thereby enhancing the car's versatility. Among the objectives was not only to improve the car's overall efficiency, especially in medium and high downforce configurations, but also to address the chronic understeer that limited the MCL60 in 2023, particularly at low speeds. The slower the speed, the more the car struggled in long corners that required reliance on the front end. This issue, both mechanical and aerodynamic, was a key focus for McLaren on the 2024 car, especially with the updates introduced during the season. McLaren unveiled a new front-wing concept with the Miami package, working on the flap geometries, which was further updated in Austria. What had previously been a weakness became one of the MCL38's strengths thanks to meticulous development efforts. Other teams followed the trend during the season, albeit later than McLaren and Mercedes. The latter revised its concept from Monaco onward, pursuing solutions different from those at the start of the year. The delay was partly due to Ferrari and Red Bull approaching the FIA for clarification regarding the alleged excessive flexibility of their rivals' front wings. This prompted the governing body to install cameras on all cars, starting from the Belgian GP, to monitor wing flexibility. However, the aim was not to intervene promptly, but to gather long-term data. Upon reviewing the footage and confirming that the potentially contentious wings passed all mandatory tests, the FIA deemed them compliant and decided against further action. Nicolas Tombazis explained that there had been considerable attention surrounding the issue during the summer and early in the season. He stated that it had been made clear to the teams, at least since 2022, that there was no intention to introduce additional front-wing tests, and that they had adhered to this decision. He also confirmed that the tests would remain unchanged in 2025, which would allow teams to continue investing and developing. Following the FIA's stance, Ferrari also introduced a revised front wing in the second half of the season, first unveiling a new design in Singapore to increase front-end downforce, and later modifying its construction in Austin to enhance flexibility. However, Ferrari was frustrated by the timing, as the governing body reportedly took about 2 months to provide a clear response on the matter. When asked if wing flexibility had been a decisive factor in the championship, Vasseur responded that he believed it had. He expressed some frustration, noting that the performance improvement was clear, but they had to wait 2 months to determine whether it was legal. The Ferrari team principal explained that, in a pre-budget cap era, Ferrari could have adopted similar solutions sooner, but the cost constraints had forced them to wait. Vasseur also commented on the cost cap, stating that with it, teams always had to stick to the budget and be efficient. The French manager explained that if development was started and then scrapped, it could cost €600,000. He added that this had been a topic of discussion with Red Bull 2 years prior, highlighting that it wasn't just about losing €500,000, but about it being €500,000 out of a €150 million budget. It's not just about designing a new front wing, but also revisiting its construction and producing multiple units to comply. Moreover, the development budget is significantly smaller than the total cost cap, forcing teams to make strategic choices. The Ferrari team boss explained that it was €500,000 out of €3 or €4 million allocated for development, taking into account the costs for engineers, race expenses, and other factors. He noted that, in the end, the development budget was relatively small, and if €500,000 was wasted on something that didn't yield results, it couldn't be spent elsewhere. He emphasized that this was where the situation became particularly tight. This issue also affected Red Bull in 2024, as the Milton Keynes team had to rethink its budget allocation for flexible wings to adapt to the trend set by rivals, despite already having other areas to address due to the aerodynamic balance issues of the RB20. Christian Horner explained that he believed the front wing was a key area where other teams had found performance, referring not just to the wing's geometry. He elaborated that it wasn't merely about making the wing flex, but also about how this movement occurred and was utilized. He pointed out that the way front wings were used was very different, noting that the angle of the front wing on McLaren and Mercedes cars was distinct from the rest of the field. Vasseur argued that the performance gains from a flexible wing, even if seemingly small, could significantly impact not just performance, but also the standings. With margins so tight, even a few hundredths of a second can make a difference. The French manager explained that it was true that the closer the competition, the more attention was paid to details. He wasn't sure if, when there was a 0.6 gap between cars, as much focus was placed on those details. However, he noted that in races like Monza, where 4 or 5 cars were within a tenth of a second, having a flexible wing certainly made a significant difference. He believed this was more a consequence of a challenging regulatory framework that was difficult to develop under, as well as the championship becoming increasingly competitive.